Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and like always, I'm Brian. So I got contacted by a couple of guys to do a product review, but not on a regular product. They wanted me to review a game based on the fact that I have a Steam controller, which is, I think, pretty sweet. So if you like games like Spider-Man, and you like jetpacks, and you also like games like action sports games, you know, Tony Hawk, things like that, then you're probably going to want to check this out because I'm going to be doing a review on this game with a little bit of Chanley style. Now, before I actually do this review, I feel like I need to do two different things. One, I need to thank the guys that basically set me up with all this. And two, I feel like I need to voice a general opinion of mine on how I feel about video games, because through all my product reviews, I don't think I've talked about video games very much. And so, basically, I need to thank Josh Knapp, Eric Johnson, and Jamie Fristrom. Sorry if I messed that up, buddy. I am terrible at reading and even worse at pronouncing names. But Josh and Eric, they both work over at something called the Indie Bros, where their pretty much job is to promote indie games, which I think is a pretty sweet deal. They're really cool. I'll actually put a link to their website down in the description if you guys want to check that out. Now, the most important guy in this is Jamie Fristrom. He's the guy that has made this game. And I know I haven't said it yet, but if you guys have read the title, this is Energy Hook. I'm reviewing Energy Hook. So basically, this guy started in Treyarch Activision, doing a lot of cool things, left because he didn't like it there, because he wanted to make his own games and do indie games, which is respectable. If you got it, and he was basically the guy who made the dynamic swinging engine for the Spider-Man 2 game, which I know a lot of people liked. So that guy is pretty sweet, and I actually got to talk to him myself, and he answered a few questions I had about the game, which is even cooler. I got to talk to a game developer. So anyway, thank you guys. I really do appreciate this. Thank you. This was a really cool opportunity for me to do, and I'm sorry it took so long for me to get the video out. I've just been super busy, and I know you guys have been too. So here's the second thing. How do I feel about games? I like a lot of games. And then there are games that I can appreciate but will never play. That's a different story. This I can give Jamie props for because I absolutely hate Treyarch. I do. I don't like them. They're a shitty company and they make crappy games. Flat out. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if that pisses anybody off, but they do. They make shitty games. And they're fucking lazy. They're pieces of shit. I also don't like movie games. If it's a movie, I'll watch the movie. If it's a game based on a story, that's cool too, but don't do a direct adaptation of a movie into a video game. That's lazy. And most of them turn out like shit, mostly because of Treyarch. I'm going to say that. Treyarch, you make shitty games. And why do you revamp games that have died? That you're not helping anything, you're just making them look worse. Treyarch is the beating of a dead horse epitome of a game developer. Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox. I'm done. But the fire will always burn inside of me for my hatred of Treyarch. Anyway, so those are my two things. Now let's get to why we're here. The meat and potatoes. This game, Energy Hook. And it's exactly what I said in the intro. It's basically you've got a grappling hook on your arm that shoots an energy beam like a tractor beam. You have a fucking jetpack on. And you can do awesome tricks like heel grabs and spins and wall runs and stuff. And that's the game. Really. The concept of it I thought would be kind of silly. Like, whatever. But it's really addictive. Like, okay. Basically the high points of this game. It's fast paced. It's got really cool music. Like, I like listening to the game music, and most of the time I'll just turn the game music off and listen to my own music, but this was actually cool, and the music changes depending on the challenges you do, which is, I think, also pretty sweet. And like I said, challenges. And instead of giving, like, bronze and silver and gold medals, they actually give you, like, the periodic symbol. So for, like, gold, what is it, AU? Or AG or something like that? So you get an AG emblem, which I think is actually pretty creative. It's a little step in a different direction, and I liked it. there's exploration in this game. Like, you have to move all over the maps, and there's like little things you can find. It's not linear. It's kind of like an open sandbox, but the sandbox is a little bit smaller and tall, so it's pretty in depth, and it's really hard to find these things, which I think is actually pretty cool. Like I said, I talked about the challenges and things like that, so it helps you get through the game. You unlock credits, and you unlock more levels and things like that, which is pretty sweet. You also get Steam achievements, which is a plus. No Steam cards, but I always like achievements. It makes me feel special to accomplish things. It also has upgradable hardware. So when you start off a little bit sluggish in the beginning of the game, the better you get, the better your equipment gets, and the easier the game becomes, in theory. But that's usually how things go in games. And like I said, the game is surprisingly addictive. I put it on. I started off getting really frustrated. I thought it was going to take a long time to like get used to it. And then about an hour in, I was hooked. Except for the fact that with all the swinging and the camera angles, I started getting like brain tired and just almost dizzy. And I had to put it down for a little bit, and I came back to it later because I was not going to let this game beat me. I had to get better at this game. And with sandbox games, I'm kind of the one that, I just screw around the whole time and goof off. I never actually accomplish missions. So for this game to make me want to accomplish missions, that's a pretty good game. Now, there's 6 different levels in the game so far, and there may be more we don't know yet. Or at least I don't know yet. There is the Grav Dock, which I spent a lot of time dying over and over again. South Star Island, Future Island, Misty City, New Atlantis, and Sky Garden. Now, unfortunately, this game is difficult, and I only unlocked the first 3 maps, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the next maps unlocked, which is not a bad thing. It's just how far I could get. So, moving on to different things about the game, there's 2 things you can do in the game. You can do a charge jump where you like squat down like in Mario and you can jump extra high, or you just do a regular jump and you swing from there. It's pretty sweet. The game also has the options of, at the end of every swing, your character automatically jumps and moves forwards, so that way you can keep your momentum while you're swinging, which is also a plus, I think. I'm just going to breeze through this because I really like the game. I don't want to talk bad about it, but every game does have its downfalls. I wish there was a button for like a looking direction. You know, it's incorporated into most games like Zelda and pretty much every Nintendo game, and it's incorporated in a lot of games where you hit one button, the camera pans around and it gets behind you. But I guess that's not really the point of why I was using the Steam controller, because they figured that having this touchpad and the haptic response, it would make the game easier for looking around and doing things like that. Which, honestly, I think it did help. And as long as you're in a swinging motion, the camera follows you. It's just it gets a little tricky when the camera starts swinging back and you get weird angles. Kind of like Mario 64, if you guys know what I'm talking about for bad camera angles. The other thing I wish I could have done is controller mapping, like just in general. Because there was 3 buttons that did the exact same thing, and I wish there was buttons in different locations. Because like jump was like a trigger button, and I wanted that to be like the lance, not the lance. I wanted that to be the energy hook, and just I didn't really like the controller layout, and I felt like having redundant buttons didn't make any sense, and I felt like you could use those buttons to do other things, and then there was just flat out buttons that didn't do anything. I know this game is based on swinging, but you have to do some things like wall runs and walking around a little bit, and I didn't really like that because it felt like sliding. You know, like when you're playing Mario and you're in an ice level, or just basically any game that's got an ice level, you run and then you slide, and then you have to stop and turn around and come back because you've overslid. Almost like wearing the the wing boots in Ocarina of Time. I know I didn't quote that properly. Please don't yell at me for using the wrong name of the boots. I haven't played that game in a while, but I love that game. Then like mindless respawns, like I would fall off a map and then it would respawn me underneath. Thanks, guys, because, I really just want to die repeatedly after dying because that makes the game more fun. No, it does not. Oh, really? Let's put me in the bottom of the world where I can't even take. Damn it. yeah, it's a pretty freaking ideal place to be set. Okay, so let's get back into some positives of the game. Let's talk about the maps. Each map is really unique and doesn't really match the next one, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you know, you go through a lot of games and it's just basically like, let's change this color to blue and then it's a totally new map. No, these are like completely different designs. One's like a mountain range, one's a city, one's like a construction site almost, where it's got like a bunch of like cranes and lifters that you can swing on, which I think is pretty cool. Like I said, like it's totally different, and just based on the pictures, Sky Garden looked like some fantasy castle kind of deal, where it's like it was multi-level and it like wrapped around and went up and stuff like that. And I smacked the camera, sorry about that, or smacked the mic. And it went up and wrapped around, and I just feel like that would have been really cool if I could have got to that level, but it's not really in my wheelhouse of games, so I had a lot of difficulty beating some of the challenges and things like that. And there's even like little like hidden like I wouldn't call them Easter eggs, but it's fun little things. So when you slow down and notice them, it's pretty sweet. Like this here, it's actually like a sign talking about how you need to be a licensed energy hook user in this area, which kind of makes me wonder: is this character like a rebel and I shouldn't have this equipment, or am I actually here for a reason? It's kind of like a little, kind of like a pondry or something, you know, since the game doesn't really have much of a storyline, which is okay. You know what? This game's an open sandbox of fun, so why does it need a storyline? But if it adds a storyline, that would be a pretty sweet thing. One thing I did forget to mention about this game is it actually was a Kickstarter, and it was a very successful Kickstarter at that. So for those of you guys that helped out the Kickstarter, awesome. Good for you. And for those of you who did not get in the Kickstarter, it was a greenlight Steam, but I believe it is an actual game now on Steam, so I will put both of those links in the description. You can check that out. Pretty sweet. So once I'd actually contacted Jamie, and he got back to me actually pretty quickly. It was pretty nice of him. I do appreciate that. I had 3 questions for him. One of them was, would they be adding more tricks? I asked him about the controller rebindings so that I could move the buttons around. And I also asked him about the camera, which I really had a lot of problems with. And this is what he said about the tricks. He said there are 3 poses and flips, spins, loop-de-loops, wall runs, and I believe that's all the game needs. Mixing those up gives you a lot of variety, more than Project Gotham Racing, one of my favorite style games, which was pretty cool that he used that as part of his influences. He continued by saying that we're basically, all we can do is various kinds of drifts and get air. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misread that. He's just saying in Gotham Racing is where you could just get air and do different things. Never played Gotham Racing. It looked like a shit game, honestly. Next thing, I asked him about controller remapping, and he said, God, I hope so, but he's out of money, so maybe not, which I guess I can understand. It's an indie game, you can only do so much, and people aren't going to work for free. But hopefully after he gets some sales, maybe there'll be some updates and things like that. And then I asked him about the camera, like why is there not a smart camera AI or like a reset button? There's so many available buttons on the controller. You want to have like a little button so the camera just pans behind you instead of having it just pointing random directions. And this is his response. He said, I've done some tweaking in the last updates. It made some things better, other things worse. Cameras. I don't think I've ever seen a game review that said, great camera. Reviewers always complain. You know, someone's always going to find something to complain about. Can't really disagree with that. Then he continues by saying, we had someone working on the camera for 2 years on Spider-Man 2, and reviewers still complained. So I'm just settling for okay. Which I guess is kind of understandable. If you can't please everybody, at least have a camera that works. It's not like pointing up through the ground and doing some really bad things. I know I referenced Mario 64, but I'm going to have to say the camera is definitely not that bad. It's a good mental image of, you know, bad cameras. That being said, I've played a lot of games, you know, Zelda, let's see, Xenoblade Chronicles has an auto reset camera and things like that, and adjustable cameras. They managed to do okay, but I feel like those games had a higher budget, so I wish there would have been like a slightly bigger push for a better camera angle, but that's okay. I guess finally I'd like to wrap up with like graphics. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Reboot, but to me it's kind of like playing in the world of Reboot. That's about the level of graphics, or maybe even Lawnmower Man. You know how when they went like computer graphics and Lawnmower Man, that really old movie, and I'm dating myself. Look it up. It's a cool movie. I liked it when I was a kid. Those are like the level of graphics, but I don't think this is supposed to be a graphics intensive game. I think it's just meant to be fun. And most indie games aren't that beautiful anyway. Finally, my biggest gripe was in the grav ship dock. I kept falling in like this hole and I couldn't figure out how to get out, and it drove me crazy. But then I eventually switched over to the charge jump, which I talked about earlier, and so basically that's just the easiest way to get out of that. And I can't believe I got so frustrated over not being able to like jump up giant stairs and things like that. I wish there was like an easier access at the beginning, but once you get a hang of the controls, it's not that bad, and it's actually really fun even if you get stuck. Alright guys, so obviously since it's an indie game and it's still in development, there's going to be a lot of pitfalls, so I appreciate you guys sticking around. This is a game worth checking out, and it's not really that expensive either, so I would definitely push that you guys check it out, especially if you're a huge fan of Spider-Man. Like, this is going to get your Spider-Man jollies going. Yeah, definitely going to get them Spider-Man juices going, and it's going to be a good time for you guys. Well, I appreciate you guys sticking around for so long. I'm going to do like a montage of all my deaths, because 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I died like at least 30 times in the first hour. So I'm going to do like a little death scene montage and show you kind of how the ragdoll looks and how coming in contact with certain items or objects and things like that can affect you, and mostly just don't fall off the edge of the maps. But before I do that, I just want to recap by saying this was an awesome game. I definitely like playing it on the Steam controller. It had some hiccups, but you know what? He said he's going to put out some more updates and things like that. So the game has room to be better, and it will improve. And it's definitely worth checking out. Also, all the links for everything you guys need to know about this game are in the description, along with all my other usual like social medias and things like that. Those will be in the description as well. So, thanks for hanging out, guys. This was a look at Energy Hook with a Steam controller, done Chanley style.